This is the Troll Patrol, live with Justin FREAKIN.
Good morning! It's the Troll Patrol, live. Yes, we are up early again. The stream last week with C-SPAN call-ins and Prime Minister's questions, raving success. More people watch that than watch the normal Troll Patrol, so clearly the people are into it. Also, like, hey, more chances to use my Christmas graphics and that Christmas countdown. I fucking love that Christmas countdown. I had to make a happy holidays video for one of my clients. I was like, well, this is easy. I just happen to have all the music already picked out. So it wasn't hard to put that together. I'm not high enough for this shit. I wouldn't say I'm up early again, Sky Comet. I've not been to sleep since we did the actual show last night. But I'd only been awake like an hour or an hour and a half. I sleep. A lot of people that have these weird sleep schedules don't sleep a lot. I sleep like 10 fucking hours. I'm gonna get the fuck off of here and sleep all goddamn day, and then barely wake up to do the show later on tonight. Now, I will say, we were talking about Christmas, or I was talking about Christmas. I was looking at the calendar, seeing how everything falls. The 23rd will be the Merry Christmas edition of the Friday Night Freak Show. I asked Media Winch to be the special guest. I figured Media Winch could be the special guest host anytime we have a holiday episode. Media Winch will be attending an event that night and can't be on with me, so I don't know who I'm gonna pull out of my Santa's hat for the Friday Night Freak Show on Christmas, but I'm gonna make it special. Clearly, I think the Media Winch is special. I save her for special occasions. It was actually just Curiouser looked at me the other day. Was like, "You don't have Media Winch on enough." I'm like, she's been on more than any, like, since we've been doing rotating guest hosts, she's been on twice. Everybody else has been on once. Christmas falls on a Sunday. I don't exactly know what we're doing here at the household. But I've looked up public domain Christmas movies that we might watch. Now, hopefully, I came on early enough today to catch the commercial breaks. So they should match up with C-SPAN's commercial breaks. We won't have to, I won't be lonely. I mean, Curiouser might be at work. We might be doing Christmas on another day. I don't know. I don't know what the schedule is. But, like, I won't be lonely. I felt like some people wanted me to stream on Thanksgiving, and I'll let people down by not. So I'll stream on Christmas. We'll watch a public domain Christmas movie. I think Santa versus Satan was the one that I picked out. Now, or Santa versus the Devil or something like that. Who wouldn't be down for that? Well, we'll do some Christmas news stories, and we'll watch a Christmas movie. It'll be a fun time. I can tell you what is not a fun time right now: the fact that I'm not high enough for this shit. Oh, by the way, we're going to be going to Parliament here.
Question 6, please, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister Rishi Sunak will be having a seat here any minute now.
During the bill's second reading in the other place, the government announced its intention to introduce amendments in a number of key areas. These
We're going to be watching Prime Minister's questions.
Engagement that has taken place with victims.
Oh, they're going to be on holiday until January 8th. Perhaps I will be on holiday doing this show.
The government will continue to engage constructively with all interested
after the new year.
Concerns and how they might be addressed.
James Sunderland. Mr. Speaker.
I did not look and see when New Year is.
The legacy bill.
I should probably do that
before it returns to this place, notably in respect of
New Year's Eve is a Friday night. New Year's Eve is a Saturday night.
Process not assuming moral equivalence, and also the language of glorification.
The warlord, I was looking to see when the dates fell,
I can give
because
assurances of that.
Saturday would be the holiday.
Changes are set out by my
I
ministerial
don't usually stream on Saturdays.
in the other place, which includes sanctions for those that refuse to cooperate with or willfully mislead the information.
I don't have any plans at the moment. Look at it. Is that his Christmas tie?
Potential changes, and I can assure my honourable friend that we'll do this before the returns to this house.
Sarah Atherton.
Mr. Speaker, my constituent Edward Vaughan Jones's Robert Tupara died at Warren Point in 1979. Some 43 years later,
Why are you still bitching about it 43 years later?
repeated investigations and a lack of conclusion.
I'm sorry, that was rude of me.
Friends outline when Mr. Vaughan Jones will receive a conclusive report on what happened to his
Vaughan Jones, didn't they fire him from CNN?
Sherry Stay.
Can I thank my honourable friend for?
There's a lot of cats roaming around here.
Can I thank my honourable friend for her question and all what she's identified in this very, very sad case is that the
I'll grab a kitten if I get the
progressing the
chance.
past in Northern Ireland are providing positive outcomes for very, very few people, with many, including the Vaughan Jones family, waiting decades for answers about what happened to their loved ones and not getting anything. The bills
I am not high enough for
will be
this
supported
shit.
by comprehensive investigative powers and full state disclosure, providing families with a fast route to as full an account as possible about what happened to their loved ones, as well as she mentioned the word closure, as far as that is possible, because that is what they deserve.
Jarvis.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Also, perhaps you might want to go and watch the Freaking News, which is debuting here in like 3 minutes. I said to actually send people over to this stream.
He will know that there are still
the Freaking
concerns,
News
being
debuts.
expressed by a range of victims' representatives groups. The Victims and Survivors Commissioners, and concern has been expressed by John Boucher as well. So, expecting the difficulty and the complexities of this, can the Secretary of State say what he's going to do now to make sure that he can bring victims with him on this bill?
Here.
Can I actually thank the honourable gentleman for his continued interest? This is my third questions as a Northern Ireland Secretary of State. Each time he's asked on legacy, sensible, realistic questions, and I will deal with the question. But
Is he being a smart ass when he says that?
department to get clarity on
Each time he asks sensible, reasonable questions.
Cares a great deal
He's
about.
being a smart ass, isn't he?
I can confirm we're continuing to talk to all sorts of groups and individuals. Government amendments have already been will be tabled in the other place, which will confirm that the independent commission.
Well, I don't know. I can't detect the British snort.
Judges their appropriate
or Irish snort.
Individuals who knowingly or recklessly provide false information to the commission can be prosecuted and have their immunity.
He's got little Christmas trees on his tie.
the way that he.
Owen Thompson.
Question 7.
7. Secretary.
Thank you. Since being appointed with permission, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to answer questions 7, 8 and 12 together. Since being appointed in October, I've met with a lot of representatives.
Killing 3 birds with 1 stone.
My right honourable friend.
I did not say free bird.
Several good relationships.
If I leave here tomorrow.
Views in the protocol going forward, and in any election to the Northern Irish Assembly, those views will need to be outlined clearly. We know this government doesn't respect mandates that it sees coming forward from devolved assemblies.
You're here.
Secretary of State give an assurance that he'll respect the mandates coming forward from any Northern Irish Assembly election.
Secretary of State.
I think there's one group of people who shouldn't lecture about not respecting democratic votes. However, this government, I believe, all parties in.
What's the best bit?
Want to see the executive restored, the assembly restored.
You like the end when they get down?
That result respected, as the last result should be respected.
John McNally.
Thank you.
John McDolly.
The Prime Minister has put the Northern Ireland Protocol Bill on ice to allow time for a UK-EU deal to be struck. So can the Minister commit to the House a deal will be struck before April next year, and that this pro-Brexit dispute will not hamper Good Friday Agreement celebrations and the UK's
Is
international
this dude asleep over here?
and the EU?
Secretary of State.
I think the.
Yeah. I don't know what we're jeering here.
Genuinely didn't think the honourable gentleman's question was that good.
Ooh.
Actually, that the honourable gentleman should maybe imbibe a bit of Christmas festivities, because I think we should be more glass half full about the opportunities of a negotiated settlement to the protocol issue, which will benefit everybody and all parties in Northern Ireland.
Patricia Gibson.
Yeah.
The Vice President of the European Commission said if there is a political will, issues around the Northern Ireland Protocol could be resolved within a couple of weeks. So will the Minister find the will to...
He's coming in at the last fucking second, isn't he?
...for a deal, perhaps before the end of the 6-week extension to form an executive in January?
I can generally say to the Honourable Lady that the atmosphere in the relationships between the European Union and the United Kingdom government have changed dramatically in recent weeks and months, and that is the basis for all good things.
That completes those questions. Before we come to the Prime Minister's questions, I would like to point out the British Sign Language interpretation of proceedings available to watch on Parliament Live TV. We start with questions to Prime Minister John Stevenson.
Number one, Mr. Speaker.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will share my sorrow
there he is.
Of a small boat in the Channel in the early hours of this morning and the tragic loss of human life. Our hearts go out to all those affected.
I swear to God, every time we do this, a small boat has wrecked in the Channel. They're giving condolences
Mr. Speaker,
to.
This morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others, in addition to my duties in this House, including the visit of His Majesty the King. I shall have further such meetings later today.
Fuck the King.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Prime Minister, a 3.5-hour journey takes 6 hours. A straight journey ends up with 2 changes and a diversion.
Sorry, Warlord.
Cancelled at short notice. This has become the experience of a West Coast rail passenger. If Avanti do not get their act together, will the government cancel their franchise?
Here.
Popular question, Prime Minister.
Mr.
Sunak laughing it off.
Mr. Speaker, I thank my honourable friend for raising this, and I share the frustration that this is causing to many of his and other communities. Our priority immediately is to support the restoration of services.
Good morning, Zazzy.
Long-term decisions on the operation of the West Coast franchise, but we will
morning, War Machine.
Avanti's rollout of its recovery plan and holding them account for delivering for passengers.
Leader of the Opposition, Keir Starmer.
Labour leader, Keir Starmer.
Join the Prime Minister. Our prayers go out to those who capsized in the freezing waters of the Channel last night. It's a reminder that the criminal gangs running those routes put the lives of the desperate at risk and profit from their misery.
A wee little bit of the Parliament on the telly.
Brought to justice. Mr. Speaker, tomorrow will be the first ever nationwide nurses' strike. All the Prime Minister has to do to stop that is to open the door and discuss pay with them.
We stand with nurses.
The whole country would breathe a sigh of relief. Why won't he?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we have consistently spoken to all the unions involved in all the pay disputes that there are. But I am glad he's raised our nurses, because they do incredible work, and it's worth putting.
Well, then pay them.
It's worth putting on record what exactly we have done for our nurses. Last year,
you give them a pizza party, pay them.
Last year, when everyone else in the public sector had a public sector pay freeze, the nurses received a 3% pay rise.
That all? What was inflation last year, Rishi?
We gave every nurse and midwife a £1,000 training budget. And when they asked for nurses' bursaries, we made sure that every nursing student received a £5,000 grant. That's because we do work constructively, and we will continue to back our nurses.
Mr. Speaker, nurses going on strike is a badge of shame for this government.
Hear, hear.
Instead of showing leadership, he's playing games with people's health. And there is a human cost. Alex from Chester has been waiting for a gallbladder operation for nearly 6 months. He's in so much pain, he's been off school since then. His operation has already been cancelled twice.
Poor Chester.
His mum, who I spoke to this morning, is worried sick. When she heard that strikes could be called off, she was massively relieved. She's desperate for the Prime Minister to resolve this. All he needs to do is simply meet the nurses. Now, Alex's mum is listening to this. She doesn't want to hear him blaming everybody else.
What's that gold thing? Do they beat people over the head with that shit? It's like a scepter.
She wants him to explain what is he going to do to resolve the nursing strike.
Well, Mr. Speaker, it's not just Alex.
Yeah, there's like a scepter on the table.
Alex and Mark, millions of others who will have their healthcare disrupted because of the strike. Now, the honourable gentleman says to get round the table, but we all know what that means, Mr. Speaker. That is just simply a political formula for avoiding taking a position on this issue.
I would assume that his position is to pay nurses more.
He should say so. If he thinks it's right that pay demands of 19% are met, then he should say so.
So it is for beating people over the head with.
He's not strong enough to stand up to the union.
Mr.
Order. We know it's Christmas, but the party's not started yet. Come on, kids.
Mr. Speaker, in 12 hours' time, there's a nurses' strike. All he needs to do is meet the nurses. His inaction speaks volumes. As ever with this Prime Minister, it's Tory politics first, patients second. We've never seen a nurses' strike like this before. They've been forced into it because the government has broken the health system. Ask anyone in the NHS. They will tell you they don't have enough staff. 133,000 vacancies. And there's an obvious solution. Scrap the non-dom status and use the money to bring through the next generation of doctors and nurses. That's what Labour would do. Why hasn't he got the guts to do it?
Mr. Speaker, we're already investing billions more.
Wait, you can't fucking pass bills without that mace being placed on the table. It's this whole. Now that's a ritual.
He asks about backlogs and the waiting times in the NHS. And yes, what he always fails to acknowledge is the impact that COVID did, Mr. Speaker. That's why we're facing pressures. But we do have a plan. Not just more money, not just more doctors and nurses.
It's a talking stick.
Carrying out millions of checks and scans, new surgical hubs, delivering more elective surgery. But if we'd listened to him, Mr. Speaker, the backlog would still be growing, and that's because we'd still be in lockdown.
As usual, Mr. Speaker, he tries to blame everyone else. His department commissioned a report into the NHS which reported on Monday. That report said we've had 10 years of managed decline. It was not COVID. Responsibility is sitting right there. And the reason he can't choose nurses...
Pete Gaze, good morning.
...is because he's too weak to stand up to the tax avoiders. For 12 years, they haven't trained enough doctors and nurses. So we have the absurd situation of the NHS spending billions on agency workers to fill the gap. Why should the country have to put up with money that should be spent treating patients being wasted plugging gaps instead?
Hear, hear.
Let me tell the honourable gentleman what we are doing. We are actually listening to the independent pay review bodies. They want to undermine them. We've offered a fair pay deal. They can't even...
Braverman is like Sunak's hype man over here.
Protecting the public, they're protecting their paymasters, Mr. Speaker. For working people in this country, it's Labour's nightmare before Christmas.
Oh, he had that one. That was material. He worked that one up last night.
Try telling that to those on waiting lists or those that can't afford to pay for a next-day GP appointment. After 12 years of Tory failure, winter has arrived for our public services. And we've got a Prime Minister who has curled up in a ball and gone into hibernation. If he can't act on behalf of patients... or
he's not really a bear, he's an otter.
...wants these strikes called off, then surely the whole country is entitled to ask, what is the point of him and what is the point of the government he's supposed to be leading?
Hear, you're here.
Mr. Speaker, he talks about COVID not having the impact. Ambulance waiting times for Category 1 ambulance waiting times in February of 2020 were actually completely on target, Mr. Speaker. COVID has an impact, and that's why, as the Chief Executive of the NHS has acknowledged, this government is serious about its commitment to prioritise the NHS. But, Mr. Speaker, let's just have a look at the NHS in Labour-run Wales, shall we?
Ooh.
The worst A&E times in the country, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, under the last Labour government, we had fair pay for nurses and no strikes.
Yeah.
So I won't be taking lectures from him about that.
Order. Mr. Bowie, you promised to behave. Don't give me a Christmas present you won't want. Come on, Keir Starmer.
Like, give him some coal.
Mr. Speaker, this is our final PMQs of the year. So I hope you will Oh, really? I hope you will... Mr. Speaker, what I was going to say was I hope you will pass on all of our thanks, at least on this side, to all those who kept our House and our democracy working. Yeah. And I want to finish this year thinking about our friends in Ukraine. As a result of Putin's barbaric assault on their freedom...
This is funnier than a Dave Chappelle set.
...in sub-zero temperatures, without heating, electricity or hot water. Their suffering is unimaginable, but their bravery is awe-inspiring. So will the Prime Minister join me in saying that whatever other difficulties and disagreements we have across this dispatch box, we are and will remain united in our unwavering support for Ukraine's freedom, its liberty and its victory.
Well, Mr. Speaker, can I
That's a pretty shit-lib thing to say.
Thanking and paying tribute to all the staff of the House for the fantastic work that they do to support all of us. And I appreciate his comments on Ukraine. It has been a point of incredible unity across this House and indeed the country, something that we can all be proud of in our country, that we have stood behind Ukraine at its hour of need. And as I said yesterday, this Christmas, many families will be laying an extra place at their Christmas table, and that speaks to the generosity and compassion of our nation, and long may that continue.
Angela Richards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The A3 connects London to Portsmouth through Guildford, and I was delighted to see the new Solent Freeport announced last week, which will increase traffic flows. As the A3 narrows through Guildford, it is sadly the most polluted road in the strategic road network. Short-term sticking plasters like...
I like her already. She's a British Katie Porter, isn't she? We got a Bill Murray sighting over here.
Does my right honourable friend agree with me that it is time to think big? It is time...
Perfect time for C-SPAN.
Time to tunnel the A3 under Guildford.
Prime Minister.
We're in the UK right now. We'll head over to the C-SPAN here in about 15 minutes.
I know this is an issue that she has long championed. I am told that national highways are developing a range of different possibilities.
I heard from someone that the Nazis invented the Autobahn.
The Department for Transport will consider the case as it plans its future infrastructure investments.
SNP leader Stephen Flynn.
I wish to join with the Prime Minister and the Leader of Opposition in extending my party's thoughts to all of those involved in the terrible tragedy in the Channel.
Watch out, we've got Agent 47 over here. Might be on a mission to take somebody out.
Between the Scottish Government and Unite and Unison health unions, a pay settlement has been reached and strike action averted. By stark contrast, the UK Health Secretary appears completely unwilling to negotiate with
I want to touch her dress.
And strike action is very much still on the table.
If I could, I would wrap myself in velvet.
Prime Minister, when will he see the error of his ways?
Good morning.
Yeah, Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I'm glad the UK government was...
I would not touch her dress without consent.
An extra funding to the Scottish Government for public services. And the Health Secretary and other ministers have engaged fully, not just with the unions, but with an independent pay-setting process, which takes the politics out of the process and ensures...
I don't know about you guys, but I'm not high enough for this shit.
...with a fair pay deal.
Stephen Flynn!
Feel free to join me in a breakfast bong.
Ring hollow in the ears of those people who, unlike the Prime Minister, can't nip into Waitrose for their shopping, nor indeed even turn on their heating at this moment in time. And that's particularly true for people in Scotland, because as we know, average
Said
energy
there are holes in their
are not
ears.
anticipated to be £2,500 per year. They're expected to be £3,300 per year. People are genuinely terrified, and that's despite the fact that Scotland produces 6 times more gas than we consume, with some 80% of our electricity coming from low-carbon sources. Decades of failed UK...
Or there's no THC in the CBD. That's probably why I took a fucking nap right after the stream.
We just need the power.
I am smoking real weed right now.
The question of energy.
I'm getting high.
And it's because of the actions of this government that we are providing every household in this country with around £900 of support with their energy bills this winter. £55 billion.
He looks so exacerbated.
On top of that, next year, there will
Squid, good morning. We've been, the last couple of weeks, we've been testing out doing C-SPAN call, because I love fucking C-SPAN call-ins.
That will always look after.
And I love Prime Minister's questions. We're live from the UK right now in Parliament.
Speaker, as my right honourable friend will know.
This is fucking funnier than a Dave Chappelle special, hands down. Look at that dude. I don't need to make fun of him. I think we went over this before. I think he's pretty based.
And those who share a border with London. Will he therefore urgently speak to the Transport Secretary and encourage...
And because I don't know shit about UK politics, like I'm just kind of making jokes about these people. I don't know shit about what they're talking about.
My honourable friend will know that transport in London is devolved to the Labour Mayor of London, but it is disappointing that the mayor, backed by the leader of the opposition, is...
He's always passing the buck. Keir Starmer is correct.
Being expanded against the overwhelming views of residents and businesses, and I'd urgently...
I like you, Sassy.
...opposite to be on the side of hard-working Londoners.
David! Can I shoot myself and my party with the comments made by...
You make my day broader.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the families' victims. Mr. Speaker...
Are we still talking about the boat?
Now wait more than 2 months for treatment after an urgent referral from a GP. That's the highest proportion on record and way above the government's own cancer waiting target. I lost both my parents to cancer as a child.
Oh, I'm sorry, dude.
So like many people across the country and in this House, I know the devastating impact of treatment delays on cancer patients and their families. So I'd like to ask the Prime Minister 2 questions. First, can he give a cast iron guarantee that the dreadful cancer backlog won't get any worse? And second, when will the government meet its own cancer target?
Just don't put dishwashing liquid in my cast iron.
To hear about the right honourable gentleman's parents. Indeed, I'm sure many of us across this House have our families have been tragically affected by what cancer does, and he's right to raise the importance of meeting our targets. And what I am able to tell him is we actually are experiencing very high numbers.
Good morning.
Following the pandemic, he'll be aware of that. But thanks to
infused honey in the coffee.
Staff, cancer treatment rates in
I need to go refill my coffee here in a second.
Data are now back at pre-pandemic levels, with a plan for them to increase further. And recently the NHS also announced plans to fast-track patients direct to cancer.
I hate when he gets serious questions, because the motherfucker, he's a prankster.
Measures will make a
He's a
difference.
prankster PM.
On them in the new year.
Terry Robinson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the closure of the last bank in Cheadle, yet another of my local communities has been left totally bereft of a high street banking service.
Bank in
So I
Cheadle?
was pleased when I heard the announcement that Cheadle was to get a banking hub. Unfortunately, my delight was short-lived. When on closer inspection I saw that it was Cheadle, Staffordshire.
It is Cheadle.
I remain pleased for the other Cheadle. Would my right honourable friend
Cheadle.
me that my constituents also need to access to cash and banking facilities to protect businesses and support our high street? And will he support our local calls for post office banking hubs?
Prime Minister. My honourable friend is a fantastic champion for Cheadle in Greater Manchester. She will...
We're just saying Cheadle as many times as we can.
Services and Markets Bill will establish a legislative framework.
Listen to your Cheadle.
Access to cash, and alongside this, firms are already working to provide shared services, as she mentioned, like bank hubs. But what I would encourage my honourable friend to do is to contact Link, which can undertake an independent assessment of a community's cash access needs and determine if shared facilities are...
Talk to Link? Is Hyrule in need of saving?
Mr. Speaker, my constituent has an 11-year-old daughter who suffers from eating disorders and severe anorexia. She was forced to spend a year in hospital in Sheffield, 40 miles away, because there were no beds in Leeds for children with those eating disorders. This, Mr. Speaker, is completely unacceptable. So will the Prime Minister now...
Yeah, let's go over to Leeds and kick some people's ass.
Mental health provision for young people is dramatically improved so that no other family has to ever...
What is wrong with the population of Leeds? Here.
Well, first of all, can I say to Sharon and her family, I'm sorry about what she's experienced. The Honourable Gentleman makes an excellent point. Mental health funding, as he knows, is increasing, so we ensure parity.
This is extemporaneous speaking.
The issue of eating disorders.
This is my kind of shit. This is off the cuff.
I think 2,000 more children were given the treatment and advice and support they needed last year, and there are plans to go further because it's an issue that needs tackling.
Freestyle, yeah, it's like a rap battle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Police Constable Nicola Hughes and
ACAB means them too.
Were savagely murdered in Manchester whilst on duty a decade ago. Nicola's dad...
Well, I'm sorry for their family.
He lives in Mars.
But there's only one good kind of cop.
Again last week, continuing his campaign for emergency...
Well, I mean, they're doing material. Yeah, they have briefing and notes, but they're speaking off the cuff.
Medal posthumously.
They've submitted questions to the Prime Minister.
Agree with me and Bryn that
you'll hear them reference numbers of questions and shit.
Our brave police officers and emergency service workers who make the ultimate sacrifice by awarding posthumously the Elizabeth Medal.
Well, they're dead. Why do they care?
For his question, and I thank his constituent Bryn for his campaigning. Every life lost in the line of duty is a tragedy, and we remember the lives and service of PC's Nicola Hughes and Fiona Bone. We are determined, Mr. Speaker, to ensure that sacrifice
Fiona Bone
and other public service officers make is recognised, and we are carefully considering the best and most appropriate ways to do this.
Kirsty Blackman.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
Just say yes.
People are suffering because of the woefully inadequate policies of this UK.
The band, Stephen.
They've crashed.
What up, the band, Stephen?
Millions in fear of the cold this winter and are stoking division over striking workers rather than negotiating fair pay deals. Why is it that the only people that can rely on this Prime Minister are questionable PPE suppliers in the House of Lords, bankers, and former Prime Ministers getting taxpayer-funded handouts to defend their partying through COVID?
It's almost like he came from the area of finance.
The only people stoking division in our United Kingdom are the party opposite.
Oh, that wasn't even a good response. Come on, Rishi.
Mr. Speaker, our priorities are growth, investing in public services, and giving businesses the confidence they need to invest. I look forward to discussing this with the Mayor of the West Midlands.
We'll head over to CSPAN here in a little bit.
When my right honourable friend, the Prime Minister, recently visited the National Memorial Arboretum, he was slightly late. But I don't blame him, because he had to come by road. Now, my friend, the Mayor of the West Midlands...
Dorothy Dixers?
An extension of the cross...
We call it Dorothy Dixer. I can't do an Australian accent, I'm sorry.
To make it into a rail service to the National Memorial Arboretum and beyond.
You play your didgeridoos at the Dorothy Dixers?
My right honourable friend, will he revisit the National Memorial Arboretum again, see the Armed Forces Memorial, and also come to Lichfield and see why we need a...
Man, the National Memorial Arboretum it sounds boring, I'm sorry. I can understand why Rishi doesn't want to go.
I'd be delighted to come and visit the National Memorial Arboretum again, see my friend and the fantastic Mayor of the West Midlands, Andy Street, to discuss his plans to drive growth and opportunity in the region.
Oh, that was just a dick suck. I don't like that shit.
It is now well over 3 years since the Conservatives promised the end.
Rachel Dratch playing a PM.
Enfield has the highest rate of Section 21.
Over here in the House of Commons. That's where she's been.
30,000 families in my constituency in the last month alone.
They're the same party, base of PJ.
Result of Section 21. I have
That's why they sound an awful lot alike.
trying to keep warm as we try to find them emergency accommodation. Will the Prime Minister scrap this?
So is it racist that I thought she looked like Rachel Dratch?
When?
Just all white people look alike.
The Honourable Lady will know that we have announced plans to do that, and we await parliamentary time.
That might be terms of service.
We are doing
Twitch, don't fuck me over on this one. I'm sorry.
From rip-off fees, and we've capped holding deposits because we want to make sure that renters do have.
Man, if I didn't cross the line last night with that football announcer dude.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Small modular reactors are a hugely important part of our future energy mix. And this Conservative government realised that when it awarded Rolls-Royce nuclear section, based in my constituency, a grant of £210 for development. But there's still no clarity or plan.
Where's this guy a PM from? The Shire of Metherstein?
Come with me to meet Rolls-Royce to discuss how to move forward and ensure
He just looks a little strung out this morning. I'm sorry. I shouldn't judge people by the way they look.
Makes an excellent point. I'm delighted that government has awarded £210 million.
I think Rishi's a better speaker than Boris.
Last year for research and development. This does have.
I like Boris. Boris was funny.
And support our energy security and climate goals.
Look at his tie. He's fucking cool.
Working with my honourable friend to see this fantastic new technology come to life.
Senator McCarthy.
When my constituent who has dementia was taken ill recently, it took 3 hours for an ambulance to arrive.
Sorry for your friend with dementia.
10 hours in the back of an ambulance outside A&E, queuing to get in. And the doctor said to him, "I'm so sorry, we're treating you out of the back of a truck." But as we've heard, the King's Fund has said that the government has presided over a decade of neglect.
Sassy, Boris was funny.
So isn't it the Prime Minister?
Boris was fun. I don't know about good.
That same King's Fund report also acknowledged that there was 40% more funding going into the NHS under this Conservative government. But we do need to make sure that that funding makes a difference. That's why this winter, £500 million is being deployed.
Winter is coming.
Out of hospital beds into social care to speed up those discharges specifically so that ambulances won't be queuing as much as they currently are, and that money is all.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're still the sunshine of my life.
Suffered an unimaginable tragedy earlier this week when 4 children fell through the ice at Babs Mill Lake.
What?
3 of the children did not survive, and one, a 6-year-old, is fighting for his life. They and their
Jesus.
My thoughts and prayers. Will my right honourable friend pay tribute?
Did they fall off a boat too?
Come together and is supporting each other to get through this tragedy. And will you recognise the heroic efforts of the emergency?
Why are so many people falling into the water in the UK?
And then jumped in the water with fire service personnel without the PPE, risking their own lives to save the young children.
Prime Minister.
I thank my honourable friend, and can I send my condolences to the family and friends of all of those who lost their lives. I also join him in paying tribute to our emergency services for, as he said, their incredibly selfless actions. This whole event.
Just why is this a rash of people falling into the water over there?
I know that my honourable friend will continue to do all he can.
And I did a story about a woman who wanted to take the Christmas trees down because she tripped over one. Can British people not see well?
The Tory party has given us 5 education secretaries, 4 chancellors.
You guys just tripping over shit and falling into lakes and creeks and...
And Mr. Speaker, the Partridges had to sell the pear tree to pay the gas. So
they're gonna have to pawn their 5 golden rings, right?
Tory chaos, incompetence, and self-indulgence. The best Christmas present the
She's going for the jugular.
British people is a general election.
Yay! Yeah, hear.
Mr. Speaker, when
Ooh.
They're happier with that than before, Mr. Speaker. But all I'd say, when it comes to what the British people need this Christmas, Mr. Speaker, in order to ease the disruption on their lives, the best thing that the party opposite could do is tell their union bosses to call off these damaging strikes.
Oh shit. I fucked shit up.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After the Second World War, Winston Churchill sent British Conservative lawyers to help to draft the European Convention on Human Rights, and that's something that we can be proud of in this country. But in an age of mass migration, the ECHR is now limiting our ability to control our borders. So in light of the tragedy in the Channel this morning, does the Prime Minister agree he should do as Churchill did, draft a new framework for refugees and human rights, including legal routes, but one way or another, and if necessary alone, we must be prepared to leave the ECHR?
Mr. Speaker, as I told the House yesterday, our new legislation will deliver a system whereby a person who comes here illegally will have no right to stay and will be removed to their own country or a safe third country alternative. That is the system that the British people want to see. That's a system that we will deliver.
So the equivalent of the stay in Mexico policy.
Support it.
You're being a little Trumpy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As temperatures are plummeting and the cost of living crisis is deepening, ordinary families are facing a Dickensian nightmare across the country this Christmas. Mortgage bills are soaring, household repossessions are up, and nearly 500,000 tenants face a threat of eviction after falling behind on their rent.
Oh yeah, immigration is a huge issue right now over in the
Children will
UK.
wake up on Christmas morning.
There are virulent racists in the UK as
Over
well.
the festive period on repossessions and evictions, so that nobody has to live in fear of losing their home this Christmas.
Mr. Speaker, we provide a range of support to both homeowners and tenants who are in difficulty already. But the most important thing we are doing to financially support them through the winter is by providing almost £900 of support with their energy bills, on top of all the additional support for those who are most vulnerable, including pensioners. That demonstrates the actions of this government to help.
It looked like she wasn't very happy with that answer.
It's a challenging time.
Stephen Kraut.
Stephen Kraut.
Tomorrow, Mr. Speaker, at 9:30, you'll lead this House in a 1-minute silence to mark 80 years since the British government recognised that the Holocaust was taking place in Nazi-occupied Europe. As we come together to mark that moment, will the Prime Minister join me in praising the Holocaust Educational Trust and the extraordinary survivors who continue to do amazing work ensuring
She sent Kanye to the Holocaust Museum.
the lessons from the past?
Minister.
Mr. Speaker, 80 years ago, Parliament listened in stunned silence as the truth of the Holocaust was spoken in this House for the very first time. So it's absolutely right that you, Mr. Speaker, lead a moment of silence in which we will stand together to remember and reaffirm that truth. I join my honourable friend in paying tribute to the work of the Holocaust Educational Trust, and it could not be more fitting that Britain's Holocaust Memorial and Learning Centre
That would have been 41
to here to Parliament. We must never forget the
42,
and we must stamp out anti-Semitism and prejudice in all its forms, wherever we find it.
Chris Evans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Caerphilly County Borough Council recently announced a £3 million cost of living hardship fund to help those most in need in Islwyn and across our county borough. Does the Prime Minister think it's right that local authorities are forced to cover the costs of 12 years of economic mismanagement by this Tory government?
Prime Minister.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what the honourable gentleman fails to acknowledge is that because of the actions of this UK government, not only are we supporting people in Wales and across the United Kingdom with help with their energy bills, we've also provided £1.2 billion of extra funding for the Welsh Government to use to give to local authorities to support their constituents, and he would do well to acknowledge the benefits of the United Kingdom and the actions of the UK government.
We have a record 4,000 newly qualified doctors training to be GPs, which is really excellent. But we do have an issue with retention, which is
here, I'm sorry.
in areas like mine, which have extremely high housing growth. As the son of a...
I need to refill my coffee. I have cotton mouth.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know this is an issue that my honourable friend has talked and championed for a long time, and he's right to do so. We do have record numbers of GPs in training at the moment. We're also making sure that we support primary care appointments and primary care access, and I know that my honourable friend, the Health Secretary and Chancellor, are looking at how best we can increase retention, particularly with regard to pensions, and I look forward to getting his suggestions.
Final question, Wendy Chamberlain.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In a written response from the DWP, it was confirmed to me that an unpaid carer earning more than £132 a week in their job is classed as being in gainful employment and as a result loses their carer's allowance of £69.70 a week. Now, caring doesn't stop. It never stops. So can the Prime Minister explain to me the rationale of this decision, given that we are trying to get economically inactive people back into work? And secondly, can he explain why it's his government's position that £132 a week is enough for people to live on?
Socrates.
Mr. Speaker, can I first start by paying tribute to those up and down the country who give up so much of their time to care for others. And I'm actually delighted that the government is supporting the honourable member's bill, which will give a week of highly flexible paid leave to unemployed carers. I think it's the right thing to do, and I'm grateful that the Honourable Lady is taking it forward. The carers allowance is a means-tested benefit. It's part of many other benefits that are available to support people. And as I've said, right now, there is significant support in place for people through Christmas with their energy bills.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Just let...
Oh. Well, the Guardian cut us right off. Oh, well, you missed all the Prime Minister's questions. However, we've still got the hilarity that will be C-SPAN. So the thing I love about Washington Journal and the C-SPAN call-ins is the fact that you get a wide variety, right? So you're going to get some intelligent conversation from people. But you're also going to get trolls, and you're going to get like nut jobs. So fantastic variety. So let's move on over to C-SPAN.
This is the story from the Washington Times today. Mitch McConnell stands by working with Democrats on that spending bill and rebuffs fiscal conservative.
It will be free-for-all calls for another 20 minutes. Then they'll have a guest at the top of the hour.
A month or two. The
guest will take calls as well.
To negotiate when they control the House of Representatives in the 118th Congress. The bill that's coming together, though, is expected to include.
There's a beautiful shot of the Capitol over his right shoulder.
Spending. We talked yesterday about the $858 billion defense bill, the National Defense.
We are in the free-for-all comment section.
And members of Congress working to iron out.
You may get some Hunter.
And the expectation is that they may pass that omnibus right around the day before Christmas. So we'll find out here in the next week or two.
But yeah, I'm going to give you the update on the omnibus bill tonight.
You think things are getting better or worse?
Getting a whole lot worse. When I moved here in Savannah 2 years ago, we had to get some food stamps for our granddaughter because we got a raiser. The $300 would go longer than the 30 days. I'd have a little bit left over. They done over doubled it, and I can't make it go 1 month now. I got to go out as a retiree, and I do handyman work. I'm trying to get jobs out here as a handyman. I can't even do that because the people don't have the extra money to fix their house up. Food's doubled. My insurance is doubled. My car insurance is doubled. And the only thing that is not going up is my rent. And I thank God that my landlord understands that.
Well, that's amazing.
But this is ridiculous. Biden's got an agenda to hurt America so bad. When he gets
there, we go.
Office, China's going to start their stuff, and we're going to be in such a crippled way. We're not going to be able to defend this country. He's done depleted everything. He's done gave away all the weapons to Ukraine, which this is Biden's fault because all he had to do was stand up like a man and tell Putin, if you do anything, we're going to destroy you. But Biden is a coward. He's paid off by China, and we're going to be in big trouble by the time he's out of office.
That's James in Georgia, and this is more from President
Manny, you had me in the first half, not going to lie.
That Consumer Price Index report.
That for the last several months, wages have gone up more than prices have gone up. Wages have gone up more than prices have gone up. I want to be clear. It's going to take time to get inflation back to normal levels.
Inflation has eased, but only by like 0.6% of a point.
Growth. but we could see setbacks along the way as well. We shouldn't take anything for granted. But what is clear is that my economic plan is working, and we're just getting started. My goal.
Well, as I tell everyone, to the extent a president and Congress has control over the economy, it takes a couple of years.
Keeping our labor market.
It's a mixed bag, Sassy. So bigger companies are shedding jobs,
economy with good.
but like there are smaller businesses who are thriving. It's a weird mix right now.
Because of my plan,
Rich, good morning.
To see historic investments.
Keeps the Georgia is the reason for the second Civil War.
Hundreds of billions.
Don't make us have to go back and burn Atlanta down again.
Semiconductor
Sudden Apollo, good morning.
Advanced manufacturing right here in America.
He's got some herpes on his nose or something. Ash, I noticed that as well. Yes, that call was sad. That call was sad because he made excellent points about the state of the economy, but it's not. I mean, Biden is responsible in as much as, you know, he was part of the Congress of the neoliberal order.
Your thoughts, simply taking your pulse on the state of the U.S. economy. Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse? Don, Dover, Tennessee, what do you think?
Okay, I think it's getting better, but I have a little bit of a problem with the Dollar General. You know, they're everywhere, and it seems like the quantity is getting less. The prices are getting more on that, and I just wish like someone would investigate them.
Yeah, fuck DG.
To Shirley in Reading, Pennsylvania. Good morning.
He's right.
John, thank you for taking my call. I think the situation is getting worse just based on what I see in my county. We are a senior county, a very, I would say, poor county. I see my father-in-law, who's 84 years old, and grateful for the COLA increase, but it was spent before he even knew how much he was getting. With the price of electric, the price of oil, the price of a supplement for your insurance, the price of food. Now, I see he isn't going to get anything more but that COLA increase. While grateful for it, they are still falling behind, and I worry. And it is happening to myself and my husband as well. He's going out to work, contributing to his 401k. As we all know, everybody's losing money, or most people are, unless you're invested in oil. And, you know, there has to be a little bit of fairness. We're all struggling. So I wish the guidelines for married people, I find, there's a huge penalty just being married. While if you were single or single with a child, and if you need the help and you qualify, that is wonderful.
Oh, now we're going to bitch about welfare. Oh, come on, ma'am.
Because like the gentleman previously said, there are two lines, and I'm paying for goods the same as they are. But he goes out and works for it, and some people are getting help. There needs to be a little bit of help on the income guidelines. They need to raise them up a little bit.
Okay, that's reasonable.
For everyone.
That's Shirley in Pennsylvania. This is...
Okay, Shirley. Oh, fuck.
Pennsylvania. The tweet. Yesterday's numbers suggest inflation is slowly easing. Unemployment remains low. The housing market is cooling, and that's good for those looking to buy or rent. I'd say we're possibly turning the corner just in time for the GOP to claim credit for doing nothing.
Yeah, probably.
From Audrey, also in Pennsylvania, in Philly. Better or worse for whom? As usual, politicians mouth words that they think we want to hear while doing nothing to actually help the people.
Bernie.
With two Americas, Audrey writes, the self
ain't just mouthing shit.
And the rest of us. I can't afford a car. I haven't received the dental care that I need. I rarely eat meat anymore.
Here.
Knowing there are many in the U.S. worse off than me, but at least the military has everything that they've asked for and more.
Yes.
One more tweet from Data saying this is a trick question. It's been getting worse for working people since Reagan. Not great to limit ourselves to horse races, but if I had to, 2 years ago this time, dozens of companies were falling down around me, and I wasn't certain I would live through a pandemic. Joe is next in the Bronx. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I believe the world economy has a profound
effect on our economy. And I also want
Thank you for being a freaking follower. Good morning.
does not exclusively control the economy, not any president. And any plans put into effect do take time to take effect.
Hey, this dude's reasonable.
There's not two Americas, there's one America.
Well,
anyone living here and loving this country and trying to do well for it and do something positive for it is part of America. So I think the economy is doing better. And the individuals, what they do in their own personal economy and in their own personal life will affect what's going on in their own personal economy. Sometimes they'll blame it on the government.
Oh, shit, it is Wednesday, isn't it?
Is James in Manhattan, Kansas. Good morning.
Morning, James.
Hello, John. I agree completely with Joe from New York. People don't realize that the world is suffering the same thing that we are.
I mean, I realize it.
It could be a lot worse. So I think we're not as bad off as we could be. Thanks, John.
To the Green Mountain State, this is
Isn't he a fucking ray of sunshine?
I think that the economy is very definitely worse. I'm an 80-year-old lady. I was a nurse.
You've been an 80-year-old lady? What are you now?
The company of the United States of America for people, and I can't even get fuel assistance. I can't even get food stamps because I earn $2 more. They go and they put up the Social Security, and immediately in the state of Vermont, everybody raises the prices of everything, including apartments, including food. My food bill doubled exactly. I used to spend $90 a month for food for what I needed in the house, and now
That's all?
I spend
Fern, did we lose you there?
exact same list. Thank you.
That's Fern in Vermont. This is Tim in Rochester, New York. Good morning.
And what were you cooking that you lived on $90 at any point in time? You could,
It's getting better. It's
maybe in the 80s.
As long as they go down.
So she did say she was really old.
A lot sometimes for work. And, for my energy company where I'm at, I called them and, made a plan with
You was talking about like back in the 50s, she was going and spending $90 a month.
It's just
She's having filet fucking mignon and shit.
The payments and everything like that. People should be lucky they're here in the United States because inflation is everywhere.
Tim, were you able to
Ghastly gourds.
negotiate
Good morning.
negotiate with them when you made that plan?
Oh, yeah. But I was paying that much already every month. But they forgot. So they was just like, no, we're sorry. Because they sent me a bill I wasn't happy about. So I contacted them. And, we straightened it out. And, food.
I took him out back. I beat it out of him. We straightened it out.
The economy is getting good. And one more thing. Y'all need to have something like 40 and under. Like, have them call. Because sometimes it's a lot of old people they call. I understand they complain a lot. That's what they do, but you have a nice day.
How old are you, Tim?
Oh, no, I'm 49. So, I feel young. I'm like with the young people.
He's telling me to call in is what he's saying, but the last time I called in to C-SPAN, they asked me about fracking.
Oh, no. I said just
No, I understand what you're saying, Tim. Thanks for the call from Rochester.
No, he said he wants Justin Freakin to call in.
Viewers of all ages, of course, on this program. It's what keeps this program going and what keeps people...
I don't feel like doing the dialing thing right now. I don't have the energy.
Yeah. Yes, good morning, John.
Morning.
I agree with that last caller. You just need some younger people calling because a lot of people just complaining. But,
all right.
John, could you please tell me wherever in history
where have all the cowboys gone?
The price on something that it ever goes other than gas fluctuating. For example, like when the airlines put the baggage fee on bags, it's still going on today, 20 years later. So when people call in and complain about, oh, it's getting worse, it's always a Republican, oh, it's getting better, oh, it's a Democrat. It's just sad that when people just want to see what they want to see. And if the Republicans
do I think it's getting worse?
Different, other than investigations. I mean, yeah, I might fall in that category that I got well over millions of dollars in, but it don't affect me. But I do drive the same road everyone else drives, and I'm telling you, they just need to quit complaining and look themselves in the mirror and see what they're doing. Thank you.
It's Ken in Tampa, Florida. About 10 minutes left in this first segment of the Washington Journal. Go ahead, keep calling in on this question we've asked. Simply wondering how you describe the state of the U.S. economy. Do you think it's getting better? Do you think it's getting worse? One more story, and it's one that also was playing out on Capitol Hill. This is the headline from the Washington Post. The lead story: FTX founder charged with criminal fraud. The crypto baron denied bail as he fights extradition in the Bahamas. That, of course, is Sam Bankman-Fried, the 30-year-old, the founder of that FTX crypto exchange. And this week we're expecting to hear from him as part of a House Financial Services Committee hearing.
He in jail.
That hearing took place yesterday, and at that
Thank you for calling C-SPAN. May I have your first name?
Justin.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for calling today. Justin, are you calling from Huntsville, Alabama?
Sure.
And Justin, you called on our Getting Worse line. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Thank you, Justin. I'm going to add you to our queue now.
All right.
Without effective security controls or encryption. The ability of Alameda to borrow funds held at FTX.com to be utilized for its own trading or investments without any effective limits whatsoever. The commingling of assets. The lack of complete documentation for transactions involving nearly 500 separate investments.
How old am I?
Made with FTX Group.
37?
In the absence of audited or reliable financial statements. The lack of personnel in financial and risk management functions. And the absence of independent governance throughout the FTX Group.
Now FTX Chairman John Ray on Capitol Hill yesterday. If you want to watch that House Financial Services Committee hearing in its entirety, you can, of course, do so on our website at cspan.org. Josie's next. Indiana, Pennsylvania. Good morning.
Good morning. I liked what the gentleman from Tampa, Florida said. We have so many things to be thankful for this Christmas season. I live in a small rural county in western Pennsylvania, which has rather a small population, but every time I go by restaurants, I see how crowded the parking lot is. I drive by some of the box stores. I see how crowded the parking lot is. This is in a small rural county where coal mining used to be king, but we're struggling to find a way to improve.
There's a good 15, 20-second delay.
Complain so much, and gas is coming down. People seem to have enough pocket money to go out and eat. I see in the stores increase in cost of food. However, I see the fluctuating prices there also going down. I just think that we have become a nation of complainers. We find so much to complain about, and we have so much to be thankful for. Inflation is just as bad in Europe as it has affected us here, and yet they pay much more for gas. They pay much more for all the conveniences that we have.
Come get me. We'll go out to dinner, Sassy.
Perspective. The economy is getting better.
When did we become a nation of complainers? Can you point to a time? Is it fairly recent?
Oh, it's the baby boomers.
Trend. When would you say that happened?
I'm a retired teacher, and I would have to say perhaps around 40 years ago. It seems as though we cannot understand that everything, we're not entitled to everything. Entitlement has become a very big thing. And I'm not just talking about what people will interpret as welfare or handouts. I'm just talking about the overall scheme of what people expect from they expect everything to be perfect.
Josie, what was it about the 80s that you think changed?
I truly think, well, first of all, and I don't want to be overtly political, but think about how morning in America, everything was getting better under the Reagan administration.
I'm not going to get in on this side. I'll be on the other side of the break.
If people would stop and think, cut unions and cut away of financial.
Like right now we're in a
what do I want to say?
Free-for-all
for people. Unions gave people.
They'll have a guest here in a little bit, I do believe.
Service industry, but people began to think that they were entitled to much more. I taught, and one of the things that we had was the great self-esteem movement in public education during that time period, and everyone began to inflate their own importance, not realizing that we have to rely upon one another, and we can't just look at our neighbor's pocketbook. We have to look at our own.
What did you teach?
I taught social studies. And I taught history and economics.
And when did you stop teaching?
I retired almost 14 years ago, and I'm on a fixed income. So I understand how people struggle, but I wonder if we budget. I wonder if...
If you guys are just joining us, I am on hold with C-SPAN right now. That's why the audio is off.
I had a single parent. My mother raised 4 children, and we did it on a very, very limited income. So I understand limited incomes, and I'm certainly learning that in the last 14 years. But I just think that we complain so much. We don't look to what is being done. And a lot has been done in 2 years to improve the economy of this country.
Josie, thanks for the call from Indiana, Pennsylvania. We'll go to Washington, Pennsylvania. Jack is next. Good morning.
Aw, it's Jack, not Justin.
First of all, Merry Christmas to the ladies.
Merry Christmas.
Indiana. I'm going to be in that town Christmas Day.
Is Washington near Indiana in Pennsylvania?
Well, Washington and Indiana are probably about 100 miles apart. I'm not sure. But that's where I'll be, yeah. So anyway, I do think the economy is going to get worse. Everybody looks at the consumer price index at 7.1%, but the producer price index for November was 10.6%. And, of course, these goods haven't yet come to the market. And when they do, that price increase is going to be reflected at the stores. That's it.
All right. Ronald in Haines City, Florida.
Thanks,
Good
Jack.
morning. You're next.
Good morning.
Oh, no! It hung up. Oh, no! Oh, no! No! Oh! They're trying to do a cancel culture on Justin Freakin. What? Or it could be they're coming to the end of this segment. They're going to have a guest, and it's not like, they're not going to be talking about is the economy getting better or worse. It's going to be another set of questions. So maybe I just didn't make it in. Maybe they're cutting off calls for right now. That would be my guess, because he talked to that one woman for a really long time. So therefore, I didn't get to, because I was going to be like, yeah, I'm a young person. Ask me what you want. What do you want to hear from me? I'm Justin Freakin on Twitch right now. We're streaming you talking to me. What do you want to ask me? Oh, shit.
Giving money away to other countries. We can't do that.
That damn Ukraine.
People that are coming in. Hundreds of thousands are coming in across that border. And we're providing everything they get.
He's at hundreds of thousands. We had a group of 1,000 we covered.
We're being destroyed.
Was it last night on the show? I guess it was last night we watched the video.
This open border.
That's Ronald in Florida. Our last caller in this first segment of the Washington Journal. But stick around, plenty more to talk about this morning, including two members of Congress who will be joining us. Up first, it's Illinois Democrat Sean Casten, a member of the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis. We'll discuss the committee's work and its final report.
All right, so we're going to see, like, it's not going to be the same topic, so that's why they cut us off.
Will join us to discuss that government funding deadline.
They're going to be talking about climate in the next hour.
House in the 118th Congress. Stick around, we'll be right back.
Oh shit, I didn't catch the breaks on Twitch.
Fridays.
I'm sorry, I missed the commercial break. I even came on at just the right time that I thought it would match up with the C-SPAN commercial breaks, but usually their breaks are like at 10 till. They went to the top of the hour. I don't know. C-SPAN's a wild card. You don't know what you're going to get with C-SPAN. I gotta go pee-pee. I'll be right back. Hi, I'm Justin FREAKIN. I'm a leftist broadcaster and comedian. Not liberal. Leftist. And despite what you may have heard from right-wing propaganda, George Soros isn't handing out Soros bucks and funding people like me. There are no Koch brothers, Mercers, or any number of right-wing think tanks funding content on the left side of the spectrum the way they fund people like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. And YouTube doesn't monetize videos that are controversial or deal with politics unless you're someone like Steven Crowder. So this is an ultimatum. Become a patron. Support my Patreon, or I'm going to become a right-winger and get some of that easy money. You know for a fact that I could be bigger than Charlie Kirk or Jesse Lee Peterson.
Amazing!
All I have to do is talk about how I used to be an SJW snowflake, but the left went too far with their cultural Marxism, and Republicans are stupid enough to buy it, even though this video exists. And you know I'm right, so give me your money or I'm selling you out.
We live in turbulent times. The media is full of deception, conspiracy theories, and fake news. Now, more than ever, it is important to ensure you're getting information from a source that's freaking reliable.
I'm Justin Mullins, and this is the Freakin' News.
Get a breaking or interesting story with a humorous twist in about a minute weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern on YouTube, BitChute, Odyssey, and more.
I don't know why she said Alabama. I called her from a Bronx phone number. I think. Yeah, I called her from a Bronx phone number. Maybe I've called before and I told her I was from Huntsville. Maybe that was from back when we called in during the presidential election. Which, by the way, that shit's going to be going... This time next year, we're going to be, like, watching primary debates and shit. That shit's going to be in full fucking swing. They're probably going to have, like, the first primary debate in August or September. So get ready. We're not far from presidential politics ramping up. Good for me as a political commentator. I can tell you that... the September-October period into the election was like my best time as a streamer ever, hands down. All right, this is the climate dude.
And if
Representative Sean Casten
was to look across,
a Democrat from Illinois.
Figure out what.
Yeah, fuck Illinois. Ew. No, Chicago's a cool city. I like Chicago.
Come up with a set of recommendations. We came up with that report at the end of the 116th Congress, had about 715 recommendations, and then over the course of this Congress, We've signed more than 300 of those.
I was talking to Curious, who was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, where I'm going to move to.
I think we've arguably
I was like, maybe Montana or, Idaho. Go to like a big city, if there is such a thing, and the biggest city there is in Idaho or Montana or something.
What are some examples? What have been the most impactful?
Like, why would you go there? Like, cheap to live.
Which is, of course, about $360 billion, primarily of tax investments, to make it cheaper for people to get a solar panel on their roof, get an electric vehicle in their driveway, for industries to.
I don't want to call in and talk about climate.
In R&D, a bill that I wrote, one of my first bills coming into Congress was the Clean Industrial Technology Act, that was part of the infrastructure bill, that says we've got to find ways to decarbonize. How do you make steel without fossil fuel? Because we don't, we use metallurgical coke. How do you make fertilizer without natural gas? So let's set up a specific branch within the Department of Energy to decarbonize those. I could go on and on. Lots of stuff on environmental justice to make sure that we look out
Illinois
for people who've historically been most affected by pollution, and also that we make sure.
Is that a regional thing?
As we build out all this clean energy, we're thoughtful about what happens to those communities that depend on extracting more expensive energy and don't leave them behind. All of that stuff is in the IRA, in the inflation, in the infrastructure bill. I'm sorry.
Hey, this is all well and good, but I wanted fuckery. This is like serious
Hundreds
shit.
of recommendations still not completed. What's still waiting out there? What are the most significant recommendations that you still think this Congress needs to act on?
Well, I think at the highest level, we had a problem created by the structure of the Senate, because the Senate could not pass our climate bills on except in a reconciliation process. Now, for those of you who are not Washington wonks, that means that you can pass.
They're watching C-SPAN, Sean.
If they affect budgetary matters. To make policy changes, you need to.
Who do you think watches C-SPAN?
Threshold to break the filibuster. And so there are policy things.
Do you think they're just watching for the first time because you're on this morning?
That's a policy question. That's not a government spending system. We really would like to see some kind of more economic signals, whether through a carbon pricing mechanism or a clean energy standard.
That's like the dude that came in last week
ways to get that in. So
and was like, the mainstream media lies to you. Like, we're watching C-SPAN, dude.
As I said, primarily through tax policy, because if we can make it 20% cheaper for you to put a solar panel on your roof through a tax credit, that's now a government outlay, even though it's also pulling private money in. So those issues where we still need to move forward are more the policy changes.
I'm slap happy when we do this. I'm coming to the end of my day.
Market economy that appropriately rewards clean energy.
Congressman Sean Casten with us this morning until the bottom of the hour at 8:30 Eastern. If you want to join the conversation, phone lines as usual, Republicans 202-7.
However, I may just stay up all day and try to get my sleep schedule back on like some semblance of normal.
748-8002. Congressman, as folks are calling in, you noted the Select Committee can't write laws, but it can write reports. A final report of the 117th Congress coming out today. Where can viewers find it, and what will they find in it?
Well, what really fucked me up was when we went and got pot last week.
Don't quote me exactly where that is, but I'm sure it's easily Googlable.
So it's like 1 o'clock, and we're like, let's get lunch and shit. We come back with barbecue.
Really to lay out what we've done, give a record of these.
He's having barbecue for breakfast. I'm having barbecue for like.
And then give a roadmap.
Fourth meal.
Where we really
yeah, we're riding by. I'm like, let's do Indian food.
Policy things that are before.
She's like, I just woke up a couple hours ago.
Standard. How do we better use market tools to incentivize?
Yes, this barbecue place over here is always fucking busy.
Nature-based solutions, really, really important. What do we do if you're in an area where your home is prone to flooding? How could we use the land that your home is on to provide a sponge to protect people upstream, while at the same time making sure
you're not sponge-worthy, sir?
As an example. So lots of those things that are sort of thorny.
I was down with Indian food, but like, can you get good Indian food in Bristol, Virginia, right? That's an issue.
And I'll say viewers the Google, it's climatecrisis.house.gov. Will there be
I'm sorry, we're talking over the dude with from the Climate Crisis Caucus.
So that's probably a question for whoever the Republican speaker will be.
Probably not, but I like Indian food, so I'm willing to gamble.
So far is that the Republicans have indicated that they don't want to have this committee, and I think that's unfortunate. But it means we'll continue to have to do our work in other areas.
And one of those areas, hot FERC summer. What is that?
Hot Frick Summer is how a member of Congress who's willing to embarrass themselves on the floor of the House.
Apparently that Indian restaurant's not there anymore. Like I went to Sabib or whatever the fuck it was. I went to it. Or maybe there's a different one now.
We just did it this winter. But the Federal Energy Regulatory
Come get me. We'll go to Burger Bar.
Climate agency you've never heard of. They are responsible for all the rules around our electric grid. Where are we going to build a wire? Who's going to pay for the
I'd
wire?
have to put pants on.
How do we decide if a bunch of people...
Not that I'm not wearing pants. They're just like pajama pants.
How do we allocate the costs? And because so much of what we need to decarbonize is, number one, to build a lot more clean generation, solar, wind, hydro, geothermal, nuclear. And then we also want to electrify a lot of loads that aren't there. We want to make sure that every gas station has a charger for an electric vehicle. We want to make sure that factories, that are currently using low-grade heat to run their process can use electricity. Well, that means we're going to need a lot more wires to get from new locations of generation to new locations of load. And the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC,
War Machine doing a load of laundry,
but is about to be deadlocked 2-2 because the Senate has moved, in my view, far too slowly to reconfirm Chairman Glick. And that's really going to freeze a lot of the processes where the things that we desperately need to make sure that people can have what they want, cheap energy, reliable energy, is going to be frozen up. And so so I took the opportunity first to rap along to Fergie and.
You woke up the children to do the laundry,
and then more recently yesterday too.
That's the only reason to have children, right? Is to have like little helpers make them do shit. Apparently they don't do anything right, and you end up doing it yourself anyway.
Had some fun.
I can't let you bring it up without playing that moment from the House floor. It is C-SPAN. So here's 30 seconds of you yesterday.
With a little help from Rihanna this time. It is my duty to once again remind the legislative branch of our desperate need to FERK. Climate change is urgent. Capital markets are mobilizing in response to the Inflation Reduction
Act. He was doing Rihanna.
No time to have us lurking.
That's what that picture is.
I do not like it. And I've dealt with it the nicest. But this delay is not righteous. And now we're in a crisis.
Congressman Sean Casten on the floor yesterday. He joins us on the Washington Journal this morning, and we do have plenty of callers for you, Congressman.
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Don't.
We don't have that on C-SPAN for you. Deborah in Westchester, Ohio, Republican. Good morning.
Old white man doesn't need to be doing Rihanna on the floor of Congress. And was that him in the picture?
I'm a retired scientist, and for the last 15 years, I've really enjoyed studying climate.
Josh, what up, my man? Good morning.
We also have a NASA engineer in our family. So my concern is
engineer is the number one profession
we are
that's likely to become a terrorist.
Past the ending of the last little ice age. The seas dropped 1.6 meters between 1350 and 1850, but prior to that, in the medieval warming period, they rose 1.6 meters between 900.
What generation are you talking about?
Volcanic activity.
Apparently, my audience skews really old. You're watching me. You're likely to be an old person that knows how technology works.
For instance, the grid. If what happens today,
sorry, Nine Tails,
of 1859, when we had this incredible solar flare, we sparked. The only thing we had in the United States.
Yeah, War Machine. We're millennials. We're the first of millennials.
And they sparked.
This dude looks like he's probably a Gen Xer.
My concern is that we're not looking at the Summit telescope that NASA runs in Hawaii.
The generation that's running the government, fucking, it's predominantly baby boomers. But then you got like Biden and Nancy Pelosi. They're not even baby boomers. They're like the generation before.
All of this electric. But the reality is that I'm not sure that you've got
Come on, man.
Straight or the unintended consequences.
Biden ain't even a fucking baby boomer.
What's your response?
Sure. So, look, the last
time... parents are baby boomers.
And let's just sort of stay purely with the science on this, because it is, I don't want to be alarmist, but the numbers are frightening.
They are.
Half of all the CO2 that we have ever emitted as a species from burning fossil fuels has been emitted since 1995. We are in completely untethered territory. There have indeed been fluctuations in temperature and in CO2 historically, but as you look at the ice core data, the most recent run-up is the first time that the CO2 has increased before the temperature. Historically, the fluctuations have been the the Earth wobbles, you have these Milankovitch cycles, and the planet sort of respirates a little bit faster. We can see in the signature of this that the current heating is because of the CO2 we've released. We can also tell as we look at the ice cores that the CO2 it's got a signature that the plants tend to absorb certain isotopes of carbon. And so we see very specifically that this is CO2 associated with the combustion of fossil fuels. The last time CO2 levels were as high as they are in the atmosphere right now, sea levels were 6 meters higher. NOAA.
You mean permanently? Because it would be hilarious that the dude that's advocating for getting rid of schools also can't fucking spell.
Yes, sea level rises before, but we didn't have huge populations living in Miami Beach, living in Pensacola, living on the Carolina shores, living in lower Manhattan. So we're going to have huge displacement of population within our lifetime, within the time span of a mortgage that's currently purchased. And so we have to address that. Now, the good news about this, and I think this is some of the tension that's, I think, made some of the information that people hear a little bit complicated. The United States is vastly less energy efficient than most of our trading partners. And when I say energy efficient, I mean turning BTUs of energy into dollars.
That is true.
Switzerland generates 3 times as many dollars of economic activity as the U.S. does per unit of energy. The UK generates twice as much. That means that if we just got up to the level of our energy partners with technologies that are proven to work, notwithstanding solar flares and everything else out there right now, we could be twice as rich on current energy use, or if you prefer, use half as much energy.
Use half as much energy.
Do that, but in order to do that, we have to deal with the fact that in communities that depend on fossil fuel extraction, giving everybody access to cheaper energy is going to hurt them. And so we have to be respectful of that, we have to transition to that, but we can't put our head in the sand and just assume that all of this dislocation, the 1,200-year droughts in the West, the wildfires in the West, the flooding around on the northeastern seaboard, that we should just ignore this and punt it to future people, because if that's what we do, whatever we're doing, we're not leading.
St. Paul, Minnesota, this is Bobby.
If that's what you do, we're doomed.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning.
You know, I'm not a climate denier at all. I believe in it. I know. But where I have sometimes a little problem, and you went through a litany of things that are being done that can be done in the future. But what I always kind of question is, you know, Al Gore said we're going to be underwater in Manhattan and in Miami, 20 years ago, 15 years ago? AOC, and I know you take it with a grain of salt, we won't be around for the next 10 years. So
that's not exactly what either of them said.
Here's my point. You know, with the bill with the, what was it, over 300...
And just so you know, fucking it floods in Miami on sunny days.
I just wonder, what is our fair share? I mean, you know, the Bernie Sanders of the world, the Republicans would always say it's not enough. The Democrats or too much. The Democrats will say, you know, not enough. So is it 500 billion? Is it 700 billion? Is it a trillion? Is it true trillions? And what's going to happen? Is there going to be a dome over North America because we're spending more? And, you know, some of my coffee
buddies... So, buddy, we'll take the question.
Well,
hey, buddy, shut up. We'll take your question.
How much money we spend. The way we measure our success is, does it make a difference, right? And we know that CO2 levels are higher than they've ever been. We know that the West is in a 1,200-year drought. We know that remember when Hurricane Andrew hit Florida and it was a big deal that we had a $1 billion weather event? We had $35 billion weather events last year. And so on any objective measure, people...
It's the plot of the Simpsons movie, yes.
...change than they were 20, 30 years ago. And we're seeing this real pain. I mean, the Colorado River doesn't make it to the ocean anymore. That's within our lifetime. There's not as much snowpack as there was. That's within our lifetime. These are real changes that are happening. But the important thing is that this is a win-win. And setting aside whether government...
It's a win-win. It's a win-win-win-win.
Ask yourself whether anyone who owns an electric vehicle is concerned about the rising price of gasoline. Ask yourself whether anyone who has a solar panel on the roof of their house goes to bed at night wondering if they should run their power plant the next day because maybe the price of electricity isn't high enough to justify it. Right? I mean, ask yourself whether anyone who has a well-insulated home is worried about the rising price of natural gas. We know that if you have access to heat and light and warmth and transportation and you don't have to pay for energy, you got more money in your pocket. And whether you get that because you are independently wealthy enough to buy a solar panel or an electric vehicle or a well-insulated home, or because the state government, the federal government, the municipal government provides some resources so that you can do that, at the end of the day, however that happens, is you have more money in your pocket and the economy is growing. And that's why this isn't a trade-off. This is a matter of how do we make sure that we get people cheaper, more reliable energy that also happens to reduce our risk of climate change. And there should be no tension there. But I think we've framed a win-win problem as a win-lose for too long. And
well, there is a tension because oil companies still have an outlandish amount of power in our society
that are created by win-wins, but not get tied up in these artificial losses and trade-offs.
So viewer Mark Stone on Twitter to what you just brought up, this is what he has to say. Congressman, I don't see why we can't do both. There's no reason why we can't be oil and gas self-sufficient while we transition to other energy. But where are most of the solar panels and the batteries made?
So you're right about both, but it's important to understand that the capital markets are already running away from oil and gas. Yep. We had in the last...
So I was getting ready to mention, that's why we had a run
exporter of gas.
In the mid-2010s. They were all these mom-and-pop rigs that were investing
in Europe, and they'd like to sell over there, right?
In natural gas and oil rigs again.
A huge spike in oil and gas prices recently.
Once COVID dropped the bottom out, it ran them all out of the market, and they don't see any future in it right now.
Why would it make sense for someone who's got a product that's worth more money not to produce more? And the answer is that capital markets really haven't been willing to invest in them. Companies like First Solar, companies like NextEra are trading at price earnings ratio of 60, 70, 100 times price earnings. Exxon is trading at 8. That's markets saying to Exxon, I do not trust you with future capital investments. I just want to get your cash out. And so we're seeing private sectors already moving that way. Now, to the question about where these are made, they are made all over the world. The sun, however, hits where it lands, right? The trade-off is not where is the solar panel manufactured versus where is the oil manufactured. It's where is the sun versus where is the oil. Where is the wind versus where is the oil. Where is the falling water versus where is the oil. Because you know what else is manufactured all over the world? Castings for steam turbines. You can't buy a casting for a steam turbine in the United States because we haven't had those productions anymore. The catalytic converters for your cars depend on rare earth metals that are mined all over the world. The copper windings inside a traditional generator are from mines that are produced all over the world. So yes, the physical assets to make batteries, to make solar panels, to make wind turbines, to make steam boilers, to make nuclear reactors, all of those are in global supply chains, and we need to be thoughtful about how we source those materials. But the fuel used to run these plants, by definition, is locally harvested fuel if it's renewable. And if it's fossil fuel, by definition, it's...
I bet you guys want a
going to be priced based on whatever crazy thing Vladimir Putin does the day before.
Safety Harbor, Florida. Jim. Good morning, you're next.
He ain't got no tail.
Yes, Congressman, you've been talking a lot about money, but are we talking about humanity,
don't attack me.
Human beings? We've only been on the planet Earth.
She is a monster. Monster. Oh, shit.
200,000 years.
Yeah, anatomically modern.
Earth,
they hate everybody.
The Earth is 4.5.
Attack the microphone.
Human beings? Are we talking about saving the planet Earth? Because we're going to be gone.
She's wild. She'd be climbing up the wall here.
Well, I guess I wouldn't want to be quite so much of a fatalist. I'd like to plan so that we're not going to be gone shortly. You are right that over the course of the Earth's history, there were dinosaurs and then there weren't dinosaurs. There were various fluctuations, and and if you're purely sort of thinking from an ecology perspective, the trajectory of every species tends to follow these sinusoids, right? The rabbit population booms, and then the foxes start eating them, and then the fox population gets hungry and they collapse. And our species is on this upward trajectory. We have now reached the point where we've
reached peak predator.
We have actually changed the planet. We have massively transformed almost everything about the world that we live on, and we've done it in some unsustainable ways for us as a species. you're right that if we all died, there would still be species that are around. But with great power comes great responsibility, not only
Yeah, I don't understand how people don't get that.
but for our kids, for our grandkids. And if we have the ability to do that in a way that is economically beneficial, why wouldn't we? Right? Like, what's the trade-off? Why not push to that point? I mean, I agree that if this was a zero sum, there are hard conversations to have. But as long as it's a win-win, let's push down and try to give our species a little bit more breathing room, and maybe some smart human being will innovate something to really turn the corner in the future. But for that to happen, that smart human being has to live, right?
I want to talk about the innovation of nuclear fusion and get your thoughts on it.
Oh, yes. That's what we talked about last night on the
laboratory in California. Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm announced scientists at the federal facility made
it was important enough to cut it for the YouTube.
As part of that announcement.
Today, we're here to talk about fusion, combining two particles into one. Last week, at the Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory in California, scientists at the National Ignition Facility achieved fusion ignition.
The remix to ignition, hot and fresh out the kitchen.
Reactions than the energy used to start the process. It's the first time it has ever been done in a laboratory, anywhere in the world. Simply put, this is
a breakthrough that could lead to a lot of things. It in and of itself is not an energy production technology.
Or as the president might say, right? I do think he probably did say this is a BFD.
It's a big fucking deal.
Why is that a big deal?
It's really amazing. So this is one of these things. It's speaking as someone who got my start doing basic science. You know, you spend forever as a scientist finding things that are theoretically possible and then wondering why you can't actually make it possible in the lab. And then every once in a while you get these moments like this where we've actually made possible what we thought was theoretically possible for a long time. You know, the idea of fusion is that you can take very small elements, little hydrogen atoms, and bang them together to create helium and other atoms that releases energy. This is what happens on the inside of the sun. Now, as you might imagine, it's a little hard to create a process on the surface of the Earth or in a little lab. And when I say little lab, I think this facility is about the size of 8 football fields. So this needs to scale down a bit. But, you know, in a place that is a lot smaller than the sun, and create the temperatures and pressures and the conditions so that you could actually take the most ubiquitous element in the universe, hydrogen, and use that as a nearly infinite fuel to provide more energy than you had to put in to compress it in the first place. And so there have been lots of fusion experiments that have shown that you can release energy. We've never yet found a way prior to this week that the energy we had to put in to compress
this is what a part of the facility looked like.
Energy that came out. So it's, we're still decades away, I think, from being something that is,
it was rather large,
scalable and market
football
ready.
Fields.
But the fact that we've now shown that it's possible is really remarkable. And to the earlier question, this is the
one of the things that pissed me off last night is this was a publicly funded venture, and they were talking about bringing it to market.
Source of baseload energy that has, yes, it'll take a lot of capital, but very little marginal operating cost, because if you can start getting into this full cycle. So it's fascinating, and it'll be an interesting space to watch, and it's just the amazing power of big science and what the U.S. is capable of doing when we really commit ourselves to these big transformative problems.
Time for maybe one more.
I don't know if I would call it big science.
Kentucky Republican line. Thanks for waiting.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I just was going to call about, I was a coal miner. I'm retired now. And I was just going to ask the congressman, most of our coal, what little bit of coal mines we have left now here in Kentucky is being shipped to China, the biggest part of it. They burn it in China and India, so many different places. Is that not going to... if that's going into the atmosphere, it's still creating the same problem if we were burning it over here. But what the thing is, they have took away so many jobs. All the people that support the mines, all the people that build the motors and the truck drivers and everything. So to me, it's just a money thing that the Democrats have come up with, because I worked for a guy, CEO of Murray Energy. He's passed away now, but he could explain it down to where you could understand. It is nothing but money. I live in a rural area.
Oh my God! The CEO explained it to you that the Democrats are out to take your money.
That you could charge an electric car. I would just like to ask him that.
I'll give you the final 2 minutes.
Yeah, so thanks, Jeff. And I guess I'd ask you to sort of think about the history. And I say this as a guy, I used to work in the power industry. I bought a lot of coal back in the day. I built, and I spent a lot of time with coal suppliers, including your former employer. Look at what's happened to employment in the coal sector over the last 30 years. The communities that like when longwall mining came out, we decimated the employment in the coal mining industry, but it became much more productive to mine that coal, because that was how we kept the price of coal down. The benefits accrued to coal mine owners, but it laid off a lot of people in Appalachia and left them behind. We've seen over the last 30 years, coal going from 50% of the U.S. electric grid to less than 20% of the U.S. electric grid, not because of policies that the federal government has passed. It's because it just wasn't cheaper. As those old coal plants came offline, the power sector was saying, well, it's cheaper to build a combined cycle gas turbine because that's more efficient. I spend less money to make a kilowatt hour, so let's run those. If you've got the money to build a wind turbine and you can connect it to the grid, that's even cheaper still. And so as markets have chosen not to build new coal plants, the price of power has come down because we've built cheaper alternatives, but it's completely left behind those communities like you live in. And I think a part of our central challenge right now that we have to deal with as Americans, and this shouldn't be a Republican-Democratic split, but if we're lowering the price of energy, that's essentially a wealth transfer away from communities like yours that produce raw energy to communities like mine that are manufacturing intensive and need energy to make stuff. They would like to have cheaper energy. And I think our challenge as a society is to recognize that tension, to recognize that if we're giving Americans cheaper energy, that means we're creating more wealth, that we're going to attract manufacturing back to the United States, we're going to create more jobs. And in fact, we're already seeing that. We're already seeing the electric vehicle manufacturers building in the U.S. We're seeing a lot of electric vehicle chargers starting to be built up in communities all over the country, and eventually yours as well. How do we make sure that economic gain also flows through to those communities like yours where once the mines shut down, once the employment isn't there, all those ancillary businesses go away? And we've done a lot of that in the Inflation Reduction Act to try to, this conversation about environmental justice, sometimes that gets heard as looking out for communities that have historically been on the brunt end of the pollution, which is a part of it. But the other part is looking out for folks like you, Jeff, and communities like yours make sure that you can also participate in this transition. Because in the same way that when the coal industry converted to longwall mining, they didn't look out for the labor. We don't want to repeat that mistake. We want to make sure that now as we boost energy productivity, not just labor productivity, we also look out for those communities. And that's our collective challenge going forward.
Congressman Sean Casten, Democrat from Illinois, member of the Select Committee on the Climate Crisis.
One of us.
Out today. climatecrisis.house.gov is where you can go. Appreciate your time, sir. Hope you can join us in the 118th Congress.
Thanks so much for having me.
Still ahead on the Washington Journal, a conversation with...
He got reelected, didn't he?
David Joyce will discuss that upcoming government funding deadline, his priorities for the 118th Congress. And later...
he looks like a real sleazeball.
International Studies Africa Program Director Movemba Pezo Dizalele. He'll join us to preview the U.S. African Leaders Summit taking place in Washington this week. Stick around, though. It's open forum next. We want to hear your phone calls on any topic that you want to talk about, political or policy-wise. Republicans can call in.
Doing it again.
748-8001. Democrats, 202-748-8000. Independents, 202-748-8002. Go ahead, start calling in now, and we'll get to your calls right after the break.
Thank you for calling CSPAN. May I have your first name?
Justin.
Hi, Justin. Thank you for calling today. Justin, you called on a Republican line. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And are you calling from Huntsville, Alabama?
Sure.
Great. Thank you, Justin. I'm going to add you to our queue. You should be up shortly.
It was the getting worse line earlier. I just hit redial and I didn't change the number. Getting any audio. They're still in commercial break though.
Oh, yeah!
Old Keeper, thank you for being a freaking follower.
Washington Journal continues.
There we go.
And it's time for our open forum where we let you lead the discussion. It's any public policy, any political, any state issue that you want to talk about. You can do so. Phone lines as usual. Republicans 202-748-8001. Democrats 202-748-8000. Independents 202-748-8002. We'll start on that line for Democrats. This is Al in New Mexico. Good morning.
Call me Al.
Good morning.
What's on your mind?
Good morning, Al.
I've been kind of worried about the Congress not working together like they're supposed to. It seems to me that there's a perfect time right now to do so, and they're not gathering forces like they should at this point.
Why is now a perfect time for that, Al?
Well, it's kind of there's no big majority right now. Working together is something that's somewhat necessary when you don't have a whole lot of one side having all the power, let's say it that way. And it's a perfect time. There's just this 2 years.
Perfect time.
You can call it lame duck, but it is somewhat.
Certainly very close majorities in the House and Senate with all the ballots counted at this point. The New York Times today with the final results of the 2022 midterm election. You can see the districts all around this country in all of the states. With the last House race called, Colorado's District 3, won by Republican Lauren Boebert with a 500
about a 20-second delay
margin. The shape of the 118th Congress is now set. In January, House Republicans will have a 9-seat edge over Democrats, a far smaller margin than expected. They won 222 districts, only 4 beyond the 218 that they needed for control. A Democrat, of course, did flip Pennsylvania's Senate seat, giving the party a gain of 1 over the current 50-50 split. That was until Senator Kristen Sinema of Arizona announced that she was leaving Democrats.
He's still going to caucus with the Democrats.
Independent. And a breakdown around the country of all the districts and all the races. And you can also look at individual cities and where Democratic and Republican districts fell in those small boxes. It's a breakout on the bottom of the page of the individual cities here, including Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Chicago area, fully blue there. You could see Atlanta, a deep blue downtown area, the exurbs, the Republican districts, Miami there, the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area on that map, New York Times, with that graphic representation of the 2022 elections. Justin, Huntsville, Alabama. Good morning. You're next.
Good morning. You had a caller earlier that said you needed to talk to more young people. I am 37. I am one of the elder millennials. So what would you like to ask me? Here I am. I was inspired to call in by that caller.
How do you feel about the state of the country, Justin?
Poof. Well, okay, so I'm a Twitch streamer by the name of Justin Freakin. We're actually live right now. We were watching C-SPAN. I'm like, I'm going to call in. And we're far more to the left than what the mainstream of the Democrat Party is, that's for sure. So, like, we see the neoliberal order as the problem, the Reaganomics, the baby boomers, and their, tax cuts trickle down. It's the same policy from Biden. So we're really discontent with the current administration, but also, like, Republicans are kind of scary.
What is a Twitch streamer?
Twitch is a live video platform. It's where the millennials are getting their news and the Gen Zers. So like I do a news show nightly and I do like a rundown and we play C-SPAN clips all the time. We'll watch, like, instead of having to do a 5 to 6 minute segment like you would get on a CNN or MSNBC, we can sit down, we can watch, whole clips of committee hearings. Really delve into topics.
How do you figure out what to cover? How do you figure out what to present to your folks who watch your streaming?
Ooh, that's a really good question. Last night I led off with the fusion breakthrough because I felt like that was a very important topic to cover. Then we had DeSantis talking about impaneling a grand jury to investigate vaccines. And from there, we kind of covered some, more lighthearted stuff. We had Matt Taibbi talking about how the right is getting better at comedy and it's making the left scared and that sort of thing.
Why'd you pick that order? Why did you do the fusion first and DeSantis second? Why not the other way around?
Well, I actually came from, I did radio news for years and years. So, yeah, I mean, like, if it bleeds, it leads is kind of embedded in me. And to me, the biggest story of the day was the fusion breakthrough. I really enjoyed your conversation with the congressman just now.
How long did you do radio?
Oh, God, probably about 8-9 years. And then I went back to school. I did some radio there. And when I came out, I was a production tech for a TV station.
What are you going to be talking about tonight?
I don't know. I haven't really thought about it yet. I kind of do things about 2 hours before the stream.
Good luck to you, Justin.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks for calling in. Justin in Huntsville, Alabama. Justin, what was the name of the show again, if you're still there?
It is the Troll Patrol Live.
All right. That's Justin in Huntsville. This is...
Plug for the Troll Patrol. I didn't get Justin Freakin out though. It was just Justin. Oh my, because I felt if I said Justin Freakin in like the first 10, 15 seconds before I made a cogent point, I felt like he would hang up on me.
Justin in Huntsville, Alabama. Justin, what was the name of the show again, if you're still there?
It is the Troll Patrol Live.
All right, that's Justin in Huntsville. This is Charles, Sanford, North Carolina, Democrat. Good morning.
Hey, Justin, are you
Good morning,
trolling?
John. How you doing?
Doing well, sir.
First time calling.
He didn't know what Twitch was.
Listen to it. I've been listening to y'all for the last couple of years. It's very interesting. But what concerns me,
I would hope, Cor. I would hope. I've posted so much shit. I own that brand.
Democrat. But we could be stronger if we all come together and quit depending on Trump to finish destroying the world, especially the United States. Thank you.
Speaking of Donald Trump,
I can't disagree with him on that.
Today, a new poll out by USA Today and Suffolk University. Here's how they describe it. Republican support for Donald Trump's presidential bid in 2024.
I'm all hyped up on coffee. I've had way too much caffeine. My hand's shaking.
Poll as the former president is beleaguered.
Not even close. What? Bullshit, Core.
By a 2-to-1 GOP and GO voters by a 2-to-1 margin say that they want Trump's policies, but a
No
different
fucking
standard
way.
bearer.
I mean, if I search it,
31% want the
it's
former
catered
president
to
run.
me.
61% prefer some other Republican nominee who would continue the policies that Trump has pursued. They do have a name in mind, they write. 2/3 of Republicans.
Wait, there's a video game? Fuck you.
To vote Republican want Florida Governor Ron DeSantis to run for president by double digits.
Released on June 22nd, 2020.
They prefer DeSantis.
Motherfucking
Trump.
shit.
If you want more, USA Today is where you can go. This is Ted in Raymond, New Hampshire, an independent. Ted.
They stole my brand.
Yes. My concern is foreign countries owning businesses in this country. Right here.
Dassy knows some SEO.
The neighborhood.
We'll get me pumped up. We'll get me pumped up to the top.
Shipping nuclear pieces to Russia. This is a major.
To Russia.
I think we don't need another Pearl Harbor or 9/11. These are major parts for supersonic nukes. People have to be.
I mean, I guess we're all in favor of no more Pearl Harbors or 9/11s. I think you can find agreement across the aisle on that one.
Look odd, and companies that have influence with
pump those numbers up.
Countries that aren't really favorable to the United States. We got to get ahead.
Not high enough for this shit.
All right, this is.
Man, I should have pulled that out. I couldn't even pull any of my normal stuff.
Thank you for having me on.
And what's the name of your show? The Troll Patrol Live.
I'm concerned about the border, really more than anything. Economy second, of course, but I have
If you Google the Troll Patrol Live, do you get me?
Just like the Residence Act, which moved our capital to Washington, D.C., Congress should write.
Ooh, there is a video of mine pop up. Yes.
To El Paso. Then, when our current administration.
The dude abides. Good evening. Sorry, force a habit. Good morning.
By their blind eyes and forced to get down to.
Yes, if you put in the Troll Patrol Live, you do indeed get Justin Freakin.
From Capitol Hill.
Interactive political talk with Justin Freakin.
To pursue impeachment against Secretary Mayorkas, Alejandro Mayorkas. House Republicans turning up the volume on their calls to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary. It was Congressman Andy Biggs, an Arizona Republican.
I have an IMDb page. I did not create that.
He said Republicans must
well, hell yeah.
to begin the process of
and that is me.
As secretary from his post. He was joined by more than a dozen Republican colleagues to vocalize that desire.
Brandon Jefferson
on Capitol Hill yesterday.
Welcome, my friend. I didn't get. I was afraid if I said Justin Freakin, he would hang up on me.
I'm calling about.
I didn't think that's the branding, Justin Freakin.
And
Johnny Bootlegger. No fucking way did I actually get followers from calling into C-SPAN.
About what we're doing on the border.
Well, I mean, I guess it would be my target audience, people that fucking watch.
He's put a plan together.
I don't know what kind of fucked up fucks watch C-SPAN. Just people like me.
At all responsible for managing the border? Do they receive government funding to manage the border, or is it purely a federal issue? And that's kind of my question and thoughts.
And I'm certain we'll do more segments on the border in the future, Julie, and we'll certainly get to
recruit from
some
C-SPAN
of the questions that you ask. Matt is in Damascus, Maryland, Republican. Good morning.
Hey, I just have a few things. I'm going to make it really quick. I can't believe Trump's running again, Republican or not. He's as polarizing as Hillary Clinton. And it's
okay, it fits the brand of my show so well because we actually do serious topics, and C-SPAN will cover serious topics, but then you get nut jobs, and then you get pranksters, and it's a lot of fun.
They had so many issues, and I don't feel that was adequately solved. Like, address the problems. Don't just steamroller people who have issues. Like, address them. How many people didn't get to vote because the machines weren't working? And then a lot of our issues.
You had me in the first half, not gonna lie.
The Supreme Court shouldn't be telling people that they can or can't take birth control like that wide of a swath.
Okay, that's reasonable.
It's crazy. And then the border crisis, we can solve that easily by getting rid of anchor babies. People are coming here for social services, for a better life. If you say you have a kid here, if you're from another country, like it doesn't count, you got to be a U.S. American citizen first, totally solved it. Problem solved. But decentralization is big, and that's it. Thank you for letting me on today.
We got a rash of people just coming across the border and plopping out kids, is what he's saying.
Independent, good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead, Bobby.
Good morning. Yeah, I'm calling about this climate change because
calling about this climate change.
Climate change is actually caused by our infrastructure and not carbon emissions.
I'm pretty sure you guys have called me a nutbag before.
And
anything else you want to add?
If you look at a solar panel and our infrastructure, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Me?
Yeah, the solar panel and infrastructure both draw energy from the sun. One charges the battery. The other one just becomes a man-made heater.
Ooh.
Now, the battery is shut off at night, but our infrastructure has to run down all night long because I'm an outside fisherman.
All night long.
And I just don't get it. Why they pushing it on carbon emissions when it's our infrastructure causing this problem? Thank you.
That's Bobby in Mississippi. This is Anna DeSoto.
So I think he was for updating our electric grid, perhaps?
I want to say something about the solar panels. DeSoto, Texas is a population of 56,000 people. They produce solar panels here in DeSoto. The wind turbines from Texas up to but to Kansas, there are nothing but wind turbines going. And then the other thing is the border. John, I'm 74 years old.
Is she for it or against it?
Talking about this border ever since.
Did she like the wind turbines or not?
Girl, 74. A lady called from Texas and was asking, are we responsible as a state? Yes, we are. Once upon a time, they took care of the border. They had work visas. People could come in and work because these are jobs that black people used to do back in the day, but they don't do them anymore. We have what's called TxDOT. The people who are working at TxDOT, they work at night, so they can't, the companies don't want them to see that there are a lot of Hispanics and a lot of people on the borders working on TxDOT. We also pay for roads and highways ourselves when we have to get our tags. So Greg Abbott is responsible for Texas. He took $250 million to work on that border and nothing. Former President Trump took $1 billion to work on that border. Nothing. Give these people work visas like you used to. Because, John, what they used to do, the people, they would get there at the post office. They would get money, send it home to their family. It's the same thing. They have a lot of...
We talked about this last night. That's not exactly what's going on anymore.
They have a lot of people on the borders who are working on these highways at night. Thank you so much.
We talked about the border last night. I forgot to mention that to C-SPAN.
Texas, this is Pittsburgh, Texas. Jerry.
Pittsburgh, Texas. What's up, Jerry?
Morning, good morning, John.
Morning.
Thanks for having me on. Since it's open forum, I'm 87, and I've been watching or listening to C-SPAN since...
He doesn't know what a Twitch streamer is either.
And in 2014, I was watching C-SPAN, and I saw, after I turned over to C-SPAN after the weather, it was the 95th...
He had an onion on his belt, which was the fashion at the time.
And being a product of the 50s, I added 5 and 14 and come up with 19, and 5 and 95 and come up with 100. And there were a lot of communist conventions.
There's some Scott Steiner math going on there.
In America in 2019, but they hardly made the news. I don't know why that is. I had a friend that was able to download the 2014 Communist Convention.
I did indeed call in. We got the name of the Troll Patrol. It was cool.
I couldn't, but he did it for me, and I can play it all hour.
I didn't get Justin Freakin on, though.
Communist Party
I was afraid he would hang up on me if I said Justin Freakin.
Address, June 13th, 2014, available in the C-SPAN archives at cspan.org. Why do you think people should watch that, Jerry?
Well, they should know what's happening in America now. We have a Marxist government.
Whoa.
You see,
we got a Marxist government going on here.
China didn't celebrate 100 years of communism until 2021. We're 2 years ahead of them.
That's Jerry in Pittsburgh, Texas.
Jerry thinks we've been communists for 102 years or 103 years.
Good morning, sir. My name is Kevin. I'm calling because I have
fucking Kevin. Hang up on Kevin right now.
How can somebody grant you permission to have a rally on the same day of the transformation of power? I mean, is that? I mean, can they do something to prevent that from happening?
Free speech
again? Because the same day that we're supposed to be transferring power, you throw a rally? I never heard that before. Who gave that permission to have that rally on that day?
Probably
they would put it like
1917,
1919.
Certainly something we can look into. Or
Kevin is the male name for Karen, apparently.
I would like to know who
fucking shut up, Kevin.
For Trump to have a rally on the same day of the transformation of power.
All right.
Come on, man.
Kevin, in the land of enchantment, to...
They ask you to keep it to once a month.
Actually, not to Maryland. We'll go back to Texas, the Lone Star State. Raymond is in Dallas. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. I was about the border. Every president, there were people.
What that border be doing?
Always been border patrol, but every president has always added 2,000, 1,800 or something. Every president, all the way from George W. Bush, President Obama, and
Kevin doesn't have a translation to any other name, Cicero says.
2,000.
Interesting fact.
1,800. And that border should have so many patrol agents.
We learned so much shit here on the Troll Patrol.
Its own, patrol. That is a lot of people.
Yeah, Troll Patrol. Lenny, good morning.
How easy and how she in El Paso that she was walking out and she said, "I see this and that of it. I don't see none of that happen." And the landowners about the Rio Grande. They're not going to let no wall come across their property where their cows can't go drink out the Rio Grande. A wall would never do it. But
yeah, you can't stop the cows from going and drinking at the Rio Grande.
Somebody says something about how well it is, and they don't see this and they don't see that. There are political operatives that are in Central American places that are announcing that you can go to the border. They are letting you in.
Hey, Justin,
no matter what President Biden says, don't come, or Vice President Harris says.
This is our Wednesday morning Prime Minister's Question C-SPAN stream. We've been at it for about 2 hours.
Brian,
we called into C-SPAN, Lenny.
Next.
Good morning, Washington Journal. Hey,
good morning.
You know, we got a former WSU football coach passed away in Mississippi, Mike Leach. He's been in the news. He's a headline this morning.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't care.
New York Times about him as well.
Yeah, you know, the people should know the whole story that Mike quit Washington State and went to Mississippi for a couple million more dollars.
We talk politics here. This ain't no sports show. Call into ESPN.
Brought Donald Trump to Spokane, Washington for the 2016 campaign and introduced.
Oh, we tied it into politics. Never mind.
And so I just have to wonder, was Mike an anti-vaxxer like the coach that replaced him at WSU? He quit his position as the highest paid Washington State employee over his anti-vaxxer stance. And I just can't help but wonder, was Mike watching Fox News and getting the same propaganda that was responsible for, killing more law enforcement officers than COVID? We had the numbers that law enforcement was dropping to COVID faster than it was criminals assaulting law enforcement officers. So,
got your point. That's Brian in Washington. Our last caller.
Did research to find a name that couldn't be altered.
But stick around, more to talk about. We will be joined by another member of Congress this morning. It is David Joyce, Republican from Ohio. We'll talk about
Well, this has been eventful. Okay, Kevin. Oh shit. This has been fun. I'm slap happy. Thank you to everybody that joined in. If we picked up some new people from the C-SPAN call in, I love all of you. Usually we do the news at 8 p.m. Sunday through Thursday. Do a rundown of all the shit. C-SPAN put me on the spot. I did not know what I was going to talk about tonight yet. Hadn't even started putting it together. I should have pulled up my notes and gave him the whole rundown. Well, here's what we talked about last night. We detailed Musk talking shit on Fauci. See, if I was to go into troll patrol mode, I was being as careful as I could so that I didn't like just blurt out, I'm not high enough for this shit. You live in sexual anarchy. Don't fuck children. They're just one of my many catchphrases that would get me hung up on by C-SPAN. I was being incredibly careful. So now, perhaps if I call into C-SPAN every month or so, we build some trust with C-SPAN, I can start being a little more loosey-goosey with the things I say. We gotta build some trust with C-SPAN, and then maybe one day I can get I'm not high enough for this shit. I told him I did the radio. Don't fuck children. It is important to tell people that. Tell that to the Pope well, I don't know that the Pope fucks children, but he is definitely around many people that do fuck children. Don't fuck children. That's not good. I didn't really say anything. You're kind of right. And I was trying to think, like, what the fuck am I going to talk about? I need to make some kind of point. And I didn't. I didn't make a point. Be mad at Biden. We don't like anything that's going on. Is it because I wanted to talk about fucking capitalism? Is that why he was like, oh, well, tell me about your Twitch stream? I can't turn off my broadcast voice. Curiouser would tell you that. Alright, I am going to dump you guys. I don't know who's on. I need to make friends with people that are on of a morning. You guys have any suggestions for streamers that you like on Twitch? If not, I'm gonna send you over to Kinsey, but she's playing like Cyberpunk. Bro, hooking me up over here. Oh, this dude, he's playing guitar and piano. He's got the snow going on. He looks cool. Is it Grimlow? Is that how I say that? Grimlow? We're gonna raid Grimlow. Grimly? Grimlow, I believe. Watching on Twitch, we're gonna head over to Grim. You wanna go to Rob Knower? I don't think he was on, because I still follow him, I think. Go ahead, light one up. Oh, wait a minute. I can't do that one. Don't do anything I wouldn't do. However, that doesn't limit your options very much at all. We'll see you tonight on the Troll Patrol live at 8 p.m. Eastern.